alive. High road roaring every night. Spotlight on Spurs, feel the fight. Spotlight on Spurs, hearts ablaze. Through the cheers and cloudy days. From the lane to glory's flight. Spotlight on Spurs, shine so bright. Echoes rise when we take the field. This is passion, nothing concealed. Through the tackles, joy ignites. Spotlight on Spurs, burning lights. Feel the tempo, sweet and wild. London's warriors never mild. Every challenge we endure. Spotlight on Spurs, loud and pure.
What's up, guys? Luke here from Spotlight on Spurs, and we are about to enter another crisis. The Spurs fans are about to be in absolute uproar yet again, because they was all in uproar. That's unfair. Most were in uproar that we were signing Andy Robertson because he wasn't a left winger, and now they're going to be in uproar because we're not signing Robertson because he's no longer coming to Spurs. So we love a meltdown, so why not have another one? Guys, look at the panel that we've got here today. Massive shout out to them. Make sure you're following all of them, subbing to all of their channels as well. Chris, first in, how are we feeling, my man? And don't include Spurs. Just how are you feeling?
Me personally, mate, I'm good. I'm all good, and I'm gonna leave it there. We're not gonna say anything more. Just I'm good.
We'll go into Spurs in a minute, because if we don't go into Spurs, it's gonna be a really short episode. Steve, first time on the channel?
Yep, first time, man. First time.
Thank you. Debut, thank you very much for coming on, my man. How are you doing aside from Spurs?
I'm terribly cold, man. Here in mid-Michigan, it dumped 6 inches of snow today. There's supposed to be another 4 inches tonight. So there's nothing better on the verge of going back to work, understanding there's going to be 12 inches of snow in your driveway when you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So, yeah, it's going to be great.
Snowy settings. I do love snowy settings. I'm not a fan of the cold, but I do like snowy settings, I must admit. Nige, he's back again. Mr. Man, how are we doing, sir?
I'm good, mate. Do I get like a soccer AM ball after like 3 or 4 appearances?
It's not worth it. Spotlight on Spurs
No,
is not worth it. But maybe I'll have a look at team.
Maybe one day you should start it. Isn't it weird that in the UK, if we got 4 inches of snow, that would be it, the week off work. No one would move for a week. But every other country, they just get on with life.
It's absolutely sensational. I used to work with someone who was Polish, and when it snowed one day, and he was going, well, but why does everything stop? Like, this is just a general day. And I'm like, no, everything stops. Train stop, plane stop, everything stops. It doesn't matter because it's snow. So completely agree there, my man. Alan, thanks again for coming on. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good, mate. We haven't got snow in England because we've got global warming in England for some reason, but they haven't got it anywhere else, apparently. But yeah, I'm all good, mate. Family's all good. If you took Tottenham out of my life, I'd never be stressed, I think I'll be all right. But yeah. And that is why in the description it clearly says we're all Spurs fans. We should all show some love because it's very, very difficult. So as I said, guys, go and subscribe to all of the channels. I'll be putting their channel, the links in the description. In the comments throughout the show, but they're also in the description as well. It just feels like every single week we have to come on here and give very diplomatic opinions for some in regards to Thomas Frank, what Tottenham Hotspur are doing, the ball, the transfers. Everything seems to be utterly just chaotic at this moment in time. We had a fantastic midweek performance against Dortmund. Great result, meant we were in the top 8 in the Champions League. And then we follow it up, Chris, with Burnley away. Now means that we have failed to beat if I'm right, the bottom team, the second from bottom, the third from bottom, and the fourth from bottom team now, which is absolutely brilliant. Chris, what did you make of the Burnley result? And obviously, if you wanted to go into any
any little bits of the game as well, and then obviously everyone else will kind of have their say on it as well.
So fortunately or unfortunately, I never got to watch the full game live. I was out with my kids doing bits and pieces, but I was trying to get a stream or trying to watch it somewhere. Couldn't manage to get it, so I had the joys of having Flash Scores update me. And then when I got a chance to, I've watched as much of the game as I could. From the
Why?
stats, just because I do this with you, I have to watch it now. So basically, you're adding more stress to my life, as well as Tottenham. Because if it was just Tottenham, I could just deal with it at that moment, turn the TV off, and then move on.
That's what I'm here for, my man.
So the stats, when I looked at the stats and I see we had 7 shots on target in the first half, I thought, well, that's not too bad. That seems pretty good. We must be on the front foot, and obviously it was 1-1 at half time. So I just thought, right, okay. And then after watching, I watched the highlights, so that's all I've managed to catch. I think Burnley's second goal, Romero needs a kick up the backside. I don't know what he was doing. He doesn't, and the worst thing about it was he gets caught, and that's fine because he's obviously tried to nick it. But when you watch it, he doesn't even attempt to try and get back to help. He sort of walks back, walks into the box, and then Vicario makes a save, and you see him try to. I know he goes over and scores the equalisers, but part of me is just thinking, like, that's our captain. And if he's, whether he's obviously not playing for the manager, whether he's just fed up, whether he just thinks, oh, I've got to try and do this all on my own, I've got to score all the goals and whatever. But for me, he should be defending first. I mean, Javi Simmons hits the crossbar, Solanke, if he puts the header either side of the keeper. So when I look at the performance, the second half, we didn't seem to be as on the ball. But I feel like what we've all been crying out for us, me mainly, when we come on here and talk about Tottenham, I've been saying I just want to see us actually play a game, try and give a bit of passion and fight. And I think that happened yesterday. It was just the result was unfortunate and we wasn't clinical in front of goal. And I think that's where the transfers maybe let us down as well, not having the squad, having that clinicalness up front. You got injuries to players like Kudus and stuff. But I thought Odegaard, from what I see, was, again, one of the best players on the pitch. From what I could see, he was really effective. He looked really good. So it's, for me, it's, I see online a lot of hate towards Frank, and I totally get that Tottenham fans ain't happy with him. But since the West Ham game, we've had Dortmund and then we've had Burnley. Obviously, the Dortmund result was brilliant. The game, first half, again, we was all over them. Second half, we seemed to drop off them down to 10 men, but you could see Dortmund having the quality to potentially come back. The result against Burnley was not ideal. We should be winning that game. We should be taking 3 points away from that. But in terms of the actual performance, I feel like the players are actually performing and they're doing it. We're just not clinical in front of goal, and we're just lacking, whether it's people just not concentrating or laziness or whatever it may be. But defensively, we just didn't look good. I mean, even the first goal, I watched it back and I stopped it in the highlights. I've watched it back, I've stopped it again. And Van der Ven and Romero are marking no one, and Danso seems to stop running with his man. And I think I can't think who else was behind Danso, but they seem to be the only one that actually tracks in, but they're nowhere near the ball at the time. So I see the Frank hate, and I get it, but I don't think it's all down on Frank. And I think this is where the bigger picture comes in. The board are not obviously supplying the transfers that we need to bolster the squad to give us a fighting chance of having clinical players up front. So I feel like it's just Spurs are just the club itself is just in a massive dilemma. And I think I'm not Frank in, I'm not Frank out. I want to see Tottenham winning and performing well, but I just don't know who we get in to change this and turn it around. And I mean, after the Frankfurt game, our next 4 games are just going to be a hellhole of us. February fixtures are awful. So yeah, it was, for me, it was, we just wasn't clinical enough in the game, and I think we lacked defensively.
Yeah, it's pretty poor, isn't it? Because you've got a defensive and you've got an attacking unit, and we weren't good enough in the attacking unit and we weren't good enough in the defensive unit. But other than that, we were superb. Steve, what was your opinion on the whole game?
I thought it was more of the same, man. It was a tale of two halves. And again, this is the same thing that happened, against Sunderland, against Bournemouth, against West Ham. Like, it just seems like every single week I keep repeating the same things. It's like we either shut off the first 45 minutes and then come alive midway through the second half, or we actually start off incredibly well, and then for whatever reason we try to consolidate ourselves at the half, allow teams to actually build up a nice little head of steam where they actually get back in the game, and then we try to either equalize or try to win it late, and we come up short. And I think this was one of those cases. Now, I will say, in the first half, I came away at the end of the first half thinking if we actually had two more competent scorers in that forward line, that equalizer at the half wouldn't even have mattered. Because the way that we were pressing forward, and the way that we were actually, getting in the box and actually putting, high chance shots on net, a couple of them go in, and all of a sudden it just doesn't even matter. But that being said, as it was during the run of play, we just couldn't seem to find that that magic code to unlock the attacking third, and it ends up being my guy Mickey Van de Ven off a set piece that that puts one in. And it was actually kind of a beautiful goal. But that being said, for whatever reason, and I actually said it in real time in the middle of my live stream, as soon as Burnley gets that free kick in that dangerous area, this is where Spurs absolutely cannot shut off, because inexplicably they just seem to leak goals. And this is exactly where they actually need to keep their heads on. And sure enough, I think it was Tuanzebe, their center back was left unmarked right in the middle of the goddamn box, and all of a sudden we're 1-1. And you look at the bench, and everybody's head was down. The entire wind went out of their sails, and they just looked absolutely dejected. And they come back out in the second half, and all of a sudden Burnley plays their way back into the game to the point where they actually take the lead. We surrendered more points from another winning position again, and we have to have a Hail Mary at the end of it where Thomas Frank is pushing Christian Romero up into the forward line because he has nothing up there, so you have to rely on your center backs to bail you out again. And it just so happens that Wilson Odegaard put a nice cross in, and we were able to at least salvage it. But that being said, I actually, at that point before that happened, I had no hope that was going to happen. I'm grateful that we were able to at least come away with something. But at the end of the day, it was just, again, another Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde performance. And it's a long list of these type of performances where I know Chris right here was just saying that he would like to see, the squad play with, passion and heart. For me personally, I just want to see a complete 90 of football, where it actually, from start to finish, you actually have the same end product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, before we get into the actual crux of the game, as I said, you've got centre back scoring all the goals. I think there's 19 GA between them, which is just ridiculous. We will go into that and obviously a little bit more about the game and the setup and everything else. But Nigel, as a whole, have you got anything else to add in terms of that game of football that we witnessed?
You know what? It's really disappointing, because I thought actually it was for the most part, a really good performance, especially first half. I thought Tottenham flew out of the blocks, could have been one out within 10 seconds. And we looked dangerous. And like it's already been said, if we had better finishers up front, we would have gone in 3-4-0 up at half time, and no one could have complained. But isn't it typically Spurs that we switch off? And it feels like, I don't know whether every other fan of every other club thinks this, but it feels like as Spurs fans, whenever Spurs switch off just once, one mistake always leads to a goal. Mm-hmm. And, it just feels like it always happens. But for me, just like the biggest tell of the whole game is Mathis Tel. What's he got to do to get a game? Mm-hmm. Frank clearly doesn't fancy him. We are playing a right back left wing, but we have a left winger on the bench. Other than that, listen, it is what it is. We are a one-half team. We dropped off second half. We invited pressure. And for me, the Burnley goal was coming. And as soon as they scored, we woke up again. Why can't we just play 90 minutes of just going forward and attacking and trying to finish a game? I don't know why we don't, but it is what it is. It is frustrating. But this is Spurs, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah, 100%. I can't remember the last time we put together a good 90 minutes. We've had some good 45s and then a poor second 45, or the other way around. But not being able to compete for 90 minutes is definitely a problem. Alan, what was your thoughts on the Burnley game as a whole before we get into it a little bit more detail?
I just want to echo what everyone else has said, really, because they've all hit the nail on the head with most of what they've said. Just the beginning, the lineup when you're playing three at the back, when you're playing against Burnley, I thought it was a bit negative again, but that might have been down to due to injuries maybe, but we did have Scarlett, Mawani and Tell on the bench, so we still could have changed it into a more of attacking lineup, to be honest. But saying that, in the first half, we were absolutely excellent. I honestly thought, like Nigel, I think we could have been 3 or 4-0 up. If we had, for example, a Harry Kane in this side, it would have been 3 or 4-0 quite easily. We haven't got the strikers to finish. Solanke's not a big goal scorer. None of our wingers are big goal scorers. We've sold Sonny and not replaced him. He was our only goal scorer really that we had in the team. We sold Kane, didn't replace him with a goal scorer either. We just sold our top goal scorer from last season. And then obviously Kudos gets injured straight after, and he doesn't score many goals either. We haven't got goal scorers going forward, so we can dominate as much as we want. We're never going to put that ball in the back of the net, and we'll keep relying on set pieces or defenders to get us out of trouble every time. You know, if you've got Van de Ven, Romero as your 2 top goal scorers almost without Richarlison being there, then you've got problems. Normally on a normal season, if you've got like Harry Kane banging in 20, 30 goals and your defenders score 8 as well, that's normally a really good season. You're normally praising it. But now we're not praising it because that's the only goals we're getting. Towards the end of the game, we pushed on again to get that equaliser, but that's because we went hell for leather because we were losing. We didn't. We weren't pragmatic anymore. We just went all out. But this is against Burnley. We scraped a last-minute equaliser against Burnley. I think we scraped a last-minute equaliser against bottom of the side Wolves. We lost a last-minute against Bournemouth. You know, it just seems to be a pattern every single week. We're not terrible. The board have not backed another manager again. This is the worst injury crisis, even worse than last year. We haven't signed any strikers or replaced anybody that we've sold. And ENIC have literally done nothing again, apart from try to sign 2 left backs, which is very strange. I'm glad the Robertson deal didn't go through because at the end of the day, why are we prioritising that position when we literally just signed a left back? So if we just signed that left back, why are we now saying he needs to go out on loan? What a waste of time that was when we were told we were going to be signing only players that moved the needle and improved our first 11. So Frank's not being backed. The players are not playing that bad, but they're not playing that good either. We've got no one up front to score the goals, and we're having lots of mistakes at the back. And that's in a nutshell for me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's a difficult one. The Robertson one, I think, was a direct replacement for Ben Davies, the sort of experienced head there. But I said it on shows recently. I think a lot of problems with Frank is the optics of how things look. So, Alan, I completely agree. When you play 5 at the back, when you're playing against Burnley, some will say it's 3 at the back, but essentially you've got 5 defenders on the pitch. The way that looks is not great, especially when you get to the 75th minute. You're not winning the game, and all 5 defenders are still on that pitch. What do you make, Chris, of that 5 at the back system or 3 at the back system? Do you think that this is going to become something that we revert to quite regularly, or do you think that that's part of just, obviously we've had some injuries and things like that? Do you think that he's just using it as an interim until he gets players back fit?
I think it's a bit of both, if I'm honest with you, mate. But I think it worked against Dortmund, and he probably took it as, there's a positive there, we're going to use it again. And as long as it means it allows the wing backs to go, your centre midfielders, one of them can go, you still have that protection, but it allows us to then get forward. But it means nothing if you can't score the goals at the other end. And then especially if your defenders ain't keeping the concentration, or because, I mean, you look at our defence, we should have the Romero and Van de Ven as a centre-half partnership should be one of the best in the league. And it's just little moments of, whether it's a lapse of concentration or whatever it may be, we just seem to just concede, and it seems to always be because of individual mistakes.
Yeah, individual mistakes have cost us so many games this season. Vicario, even with a poor pass at the start of for the first goal, that sort of thing. So, but he did revert. A lot of people think that Frank played the 5 at the back system a lot at Brentford, but actually towards the end of his Brentford time, he didn't. When they first come up, they played it quite a lot, and they did play it away, particularly against some of the bigger sides. But as a whole, he does actually operate as a four-man defence. Steve, do you think, because there's a lot of Spurs fans that have actually said that they think that we've got wing backs, not full backs. Do you think the 5 at the back is something we'll see more? Do you think it's better suited to this squad that we've got?
I would say so right now, considering they're the only players that are healthy. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So, but that being said, it's like, against a side like Burnley, it absolutely makes no sense considering they're the type of team that plays 10 behind the ball anyways, right? So you're saying just off that logic, you're setting up off of a defensive, you're setting off a defensive vibe. But I will say this though, like if you're going to play 3 at the back and you're going to be playing with wing backs, you better be playing direct, a little bit more direct, and you better be playing a little bit more centrally, right? That's the biggest issue, is it kind of negates the principle of trying to play with essentially 2 inside forwards in a striker if you're not going to play through the middle of the park. I mean, say what you will about Crystal Palace, there's a reason why Adam Wharton has the ball at his foot a majority of the time, because they actually play through the center of the pitch through him. So there's no requirement for a guy like Mateta to drop deep to make a touch. It just doesn't. You absolutely don't need him to. But that being said, we saw it time and time again yesterday where Solanke's dropping deep to make a touch off the turn and trying to run back into the box. Same thing with Xavi Simons as well too, and it kind of defeats the purpose of playing that if you're not going to use your players in the correct way that they're supposed to be played. And so from that standpoint, we saw it again. It was side to side back passes. So it's completely negated the entire purpose of even playing that formation.
Yeah, Nigel, are you a fan of the 5 at the back, the 3 at the back? As I said, do you think that that's something that's going to be utilised more this season?
Well, I think it should be, but I've got to be honest. From the game that I was watching yesterday, I was chopping and changing my mind every 5 minutes. I was like, are they playing 3 at the back? Because 1 minute it looked like Van der Ven was playing left back,
right,
and Porro wasn't getting forward at all. And I'm like, well, Porro's not going forward, so he's clearly not a wing back. Yeah, it was confusing me. But if they play it the right way, absolutely. This is what we're going to get the best out of Porro and Udogie when he plays there as well. I think that gets the best out of them. But yeah, I was confused with the formation yesterday because I saw Odegaard wide right, and I thought, well, clearly Porro's not a wing back. So whether Porro was tucking in and Van der Ven was playing, I don't know. But yeah, listen, it was a weird formation. But I actually think we are starting to play better football. Better football at Dortmund and better football as well against Burnley.
Yeah. The reason why I say it was 5 defenders or 5 at the back is because surely if Spence's position was supposed to be predominantly attacking, then Tell has to start. Like, he just absolutely has to. Even when you're talking about fitness and everything else, Tell can't play the 2 midweek games. So whilst I have loads of sympathy for the amount of players that are missing in terms of in the Champions League when we had to sort of resort to playing Spence sort of left wing, and I do feel sympathy for Frank on that. If you then get Tell back available for your your weekend game, and then you choose to leave him on the bench for 75 minutes, surely that kind of negates some of your, well, we don't have players, because when you do have the players, you still don't pick them anyway. So what's the actual difference? And it's not like Tell's been in bad form. Tell's actually been, most fans, not all fans, but most fans have said that Tell is actually one that's trying to make things happen, trying to shoot, trying to score, trying to go past players, that sort of thing. So it's not like he's in a real bad run of form where you can't actually bring him in. So it's a bit of a, if it wasn't 5 at the back and it wasn't supposed to be Spence at left full back, then it brings another question. Well, if Spence is your left winger, why haven't you started the left winger that's on the bench? So a little bit of a strange one, but I completely agree. It did seem that we was quite flexible in different moments of the game. Alan, do you think 5 at the back is the way forward for Spurs? Or do you think, again, it's the optics of how bad it looks against certain opposition?
if it works, it's fine, isn't it? That's the thing. Like, and it seemed like it was working against Burnley, didn't it? It seemed like it was working, but again, this is Burnley. Like, we're acting like we're playing someone like Man City or something. We're playing Burnley. They're not a good side, and we're playing 5 defenders on paper. I know they weren't playing in defensive roles. They were trying to play attacking sometimes, but this is Burnley, and if we wanted to, we could have played a normal formation, played Tell up there. Tell came on, nearly scored straight away, by the way. And by the way, and if Spence got injured with a muscle injury or something, the fan base would have gone mental saying, why didn't you play Tell? Because they would have said he played midweek and now you're playing him again. So exactly what the fan base would have done, I know it for sure. But yes, I agree with Nigel. Like, what does Tell have to do to play in this game? Because he's rested, he's playing well. He's showed really great mentality, in my opinion. He's been dropped from the Champions League twice, but he still doesn't moan. He just gets on with it, tries to do his best every single time, always in training, always on time, and plays well when he gets a chance. So I don't know what more you can do. I just think Frank's got a problem with him, and behind closed doors, we don't know what it is. It could be something he's doing wrong. He could be a lazy trainer. We don't know. Frank knows more than we do about that. But again, if you're going to a Burnley team and you're playing 5 defenders, it looked like it was working, but that's not the point. What if we didn't? What if we played more of an attacking team and we got more chances and we put our chances away? An extra attacker on the pitch might have got that goal that we needed, to get us to the 2 or 3-0 up. So for me, it's frustrating. We've been saying we've been playing well for the last few weeks, but who have we been playing for the last few weeks? We haven't played anybody. You wait until we play these other teams under Frank. He'll get massively exposed, in my opinion. Sorry to be negative, people, but that's just the way it is at the minute.
No, but you have to be realistic and listen. I don't back being negative for negative's sake. I've said on plenty of channels from before we appointed Frank that I don't think Frank was the man to take Spurs forward. I don't think Frank was the man to take us to the next level. I don't think Frank's ever managed as in Europe, in the Premier League, playing 2 games a week, that sort of stuff. So there were so many different areas where I felt he was going to struggle. And again, I'll keep going back to the optics of how things look. It's okay if you go and, as everyone said on the panel, if you go and win the game, no one really talks about having 5 defenders on the pitch. But the fact is you didn't win the game. And actually, when we was drawing, there was still 5 defenders on the pitch after 75 minutes. And it was only after they scored did we make the substitution. It may have been coming anyway, who's to know. But the facts is that we had 5 defenders on that pitch for 75 minutes away to Burnley. And it just doesn't look good. The optics of that are terrible. Exactly like when Davies and Palhinha were the subs that he chose to bring on in the couple of games ago. I can't remember the exact fixture. It's the optics of how it looks. He doesn't seem to be a manager that thinks, I want to win the game, and if I just can't win it, I'll draw it. He seems to be a manager that goes, I'm happy to draw because it's not a loss. And I don't think Spurs fans can agree with that sort of situation. I just don't think they can get on it. As I said, there was a return to the starting 11, came straight back in, and this is one player that I've said should never probably play for Spurs again because of how many issues we've had with him. But Basuma comes straight into that midfield and looked like one of the best midfielders at the club straight away, when he's barely played for Tottenham specifically, but obviously he's had injuries, he's had a really disrupted season, hasn't played alongside Gallagher, obviously him being a new signing. But Chris, do you think that Basuma's now earned his right to come back into this squad? Now we're in a situation where we've got a player that's got 5 months left on his deal. And what do we do with him? Does he now play in front of the players that are going to be a long term? Do we keep him? Do we offer him a new contract? What happens with Basuma now?
I think he's still got to prove himself. He's obviously he should be coming back into the squad after what's happened, and he should be working his absolute socks off and giving 150% and being the best player on that pitch every game and proving to everyone why he deserves to be back on that pitch in a Spurs shirt. Because it doesn't matter who you are, when you start doing the stuff that he done, it's never right. But if he is going to get his chance, he come back in. I think in the last game he went over. I see clips of it. He went over to the Spurs fans and sort of clapped them all, and he seemed to have got a good reception. So I think if he comes back in and works hard, proves himself, he could also be putting himself in the shop window for the summer because he knows he's not got long left. So he does come in and he goes, well, if I'm going to get a move somewhere else, I'm going to come in and play well and get noticed so that someone comes in and offers me a contract. So you never know with these sort of players and what goes on in the background. But if he's coming in and he's playing, he needs to prove his worth, and he needs to repay probably the manager, but also the fans back for what he's done, because we have missed out on having that player for 6-7 months of the season.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be a massive player when we signed him. I thought he was absolutely a brilliant footballer, and just hasn't worked out for a variety of reasons. I think under Angie, he had that run of the first 10-12 games where he was very good, and then ascending off against Luton, and he's just absolutely plummeted from there. Steve, do you think Basuma's now going to become a mainstay in this team, or do you reckon that it's just purely because, again, players are injured that he's had to come in?
I think he's going to be around the first team for quite a while, because when you look at the injuries that we have sustained and when you look at the numbers in the midfield, he's going to have to play. And one of the things that I actually like about it is, if you're Yves Bissouma, you were absolutely quite embarrassed when it happened again. And your new coach said straight up, you're not going to be a part of this first team. As a matter of fact, we're drawing the line in the sand. This is your accountability. Sorry, you're going to train on the third pitch over there, and we're going to be over here, and you just do your thing. And at the end of the season or in January, if we can move on from you, we will. Circumstances change. He goes to AFCON. Yeah, I actually thought he played pretty well at AFCON. Comes back, has a pretty good first game, and I thought he actually played incredibly well yesterday as well too. And from the standpoint where it's like, this is actually kind of a nice little surprise. I will say that you never bet against players that have a chip on their shoulder, and I actually think that Bissouma actually has something to prove. And maybe it's just maybe it is just to be in the good graces and be a part of the first team between now and the rest of the season. And then, whatever happens in the summer happens in the summer. But so from that standpoint, this actually could be a nice little redemption arc for the guy.
Certainly hope so. I think we absolutely need it. I think Basuma is almost a very good profile for the issues that we've got in this squad. I think he fits it quite well. Yeah. It's just whether you can get a consistency from him. Nigel, are you a fan of Basuma? Do you think he should be starting for Spurs, or do you think we should be phasing him out because at the moment it doesn't look like he's going to be around next year?
You know what? It's one of them, Luke. Was it last season that we sold Højbjerg? Was it the season before? When I was desperate for Højbjerg to leave, because I'm like, this player's not good enough for Spurs. We need better. We sell Højbjerg. We don't replace him. Suddenly, halfway through the season, I'm like, we could do with a Højbjerg. And I think it's the same this season. I was all up for Basuma going. What he did off the pitch is what he did off the pitch. I was like, we need better. And then suddenly he's out for as long as he's been. And suddenly having him back is like a new signing. And it's like, he's been brilliant. He's been really good. Mm-hmm. But we also know with Basuma, he is very inconsistent, and he may well have 4 or 5 games and then suddenly get himself sent off or, go missing for the next 10. So we'll see. But it's good to have him back. It's a bit needs must, isn't it, at the moment? If we had all our players fit, would he be back in the squad, or would he have been sold in January? I'm thinking he may have been sold, but it is what it is. He's in the team now and he's doing really well.
Yeah, I mean, it says quite a lot, and as I say, I was 100% one of the fans that were saying he should not play for Spurs ever again after the amount of issues that we've had. It's just absolutely ridiculous, and I am now one of the fans saying I feel like he has to play, especially in the next few weeks. He needs to start most games, because I feel like, as I say, he's a different profile to what we currently have. Alan, are you a fan of Basuma? Do you think that there's a longer term way in which we maybe offer him a new contract, or do you think it's just short term, 6 months? Hopefully get, as the guys have said, it's hard to get consistency out of him, but can we just try to get a few good months out of him, and then we go on to pastures new?
Yeah, it's a case of we need him now. It's got to that stage where injuries are massive. Like, we're going to get more. It's guaranteed we're going to get more injuries. We're going to need everybody that we can to play. I was one of the ones that said, he's taken the piss out of Spurs, to be honest, and he needs to be gone. Who's stupid enough to video yourself doing something stupid and then do it twice? You know what I mean? Like, that's how can you do that? But other than that, as a player, he's a good player. On his day, he's very, very good. But he like Nigel said, he's not very consistent and he does stupid decisions, like with the camera. Like he'll take someone out and get a red card for no reason. He'll misplace a pass, like everyone in the team at the moment, to be honest. But at the moment, he's playing well. Let's hopefully he can keep this form to the end of the season. I don't think he's going to get a new contract just because what he does outside of football, but it'll be good if he can play well till the end of the season. If he plays at his best, he will be first choice midfielder probably in our team.
Yeah, I agree. I think him and Gallagher could actually build up a good relationship, a good partnership in there. I think they complement each other quite well. So it's ironic, as you said. I think I've gone on plenty of shows and said actually I think it's time for him to go, and then all of a sudden I'm now saying, oh, what a player to bring back into the team. So who's stupid enough to go on YouTube and film themselves saying really stupid things, and then a few months later taking it back? Why would everybody do that? Obviously, there were a few other things that took place over the course of the Burnley fixture, particularly obviously Solanke coming in and Mawani not featuring at all with Scarlett coming off the bench. I was very, very critical of Mawani in the midweek fixture. I think it was a really, really poor showing by him. Looks like he's not interested in being at this football club, which is absolutely fine. But if that's the case, then off you pop. I think it should be the case with a club like Spurs. Do you think, Chris, that Solanke is going to show us a little bit of a different sort of dynamic up front instead of like Richarlison, and obviously we've had Mawani as well? And what are your thoughts on them two particularly?
Yeah, I think Solanke's going to show us a different attacking outlet. He's going to do more, but I don't know. I've always said it. I think it's just the best of a bad bunch. I still don't think he's what we need up front. Mawani just needs to go. I think it's quite clear he doesn't look like he wants to play, and to not even be brought on and have Dane Scarlett come on instead as a sub just shows that I think Frank might just be like, either it's going to be done or if not, it's just a case of, look, I don't need you. Basically, I will use other strikers I've got in front of you, which is a good, and I respect that philosophy. If that's how it's going to be, because I don't mind seeing the young players getting a chance. Obviously, being thrown into a game where you're sort of chasing a win's not ideal, but like what happened with Byfield during the week, if they're ready and they're happy to play and they're up for it, you bring them on. They don't look out of place. They're not scared, and they just fit in and do their job. So hopefully, Dane Scarlett will take his chances as well when he gets in. Because I mean, look at the players. Like your Harry Kanes who have come through, got a chance, took it, and then went on to be what I consider one of the best out-and-out strikers in the world. So, I think Richarlison offers that. I think they're all different as strikers, but I think, as I said, Solanke is the best of a bad bunch for us.
Yeah, and I did see you. You're not getting away with it. I did see you smirk when someone mentioned Harry Kane earlier. I know that there's a big smirk on your face, Mr. Harry Kane.
I'm glad it's not just me always talking about him.
Yeah. Heartless Potato, big up to you, my man, for becoming a member. Much appreciated. Thank you very much, Steve. As I said, Solanke does seem, it feels to me that he offers us something slightly different, as Chris has alluded to there. He's probably not the elite of the elite, which we have been used to because of Harry Kane, fortunately, coming through the youth system. But do you think that he offers us something different? And do you think it's now relying on him very much at this moment in time to kind of take on the mantle of scoring the goals?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I think the biggest difference is the fact that he can hold up the ball. He's a big-bodied striker with just an unbelievable work rate. That dude will run his balls off. But the way that Spurs like to play, especially in the build-up, they like to play the ball forward, and they need a big-bodied striker to hold that ball as numbers get forward. And then, of course, he has the ability to get back into the box in a hurry. And so, from that standpoint, he fits the profile of what Thomas Frank is looking for in his striker. The question is he going to regain his form in order to actually kind of, succeed in that role where, potentially we're looking for strikers. We should be looking for strikers in the summer, but, does that help? Does that help the situation at that position? What I will say is, and this is where I disagree with Chris, is the fact that Randall Colo Muani's loan deal will never get terminated just because of the numbers. in the fact that Richarlison is going to be out for a while. Unless they plan to use Matisse Tell as an out-and-out striker if they bring in a left winger, which I don't see happening because, we haven't seen him play at that position in quite a long time. So I don't think that Thomas Frank actually, fancies Matisse Tell as an out-and-out 9. So he's probably going to be stuck on the left. And if they don't bring him in, then you have to have somebody to play behind Dominic Solanke. And at the very least, you have a guy that scored pretty much everywhere he's ever been in his career. You have him at least for another 4.5 months. And if you get anything out of him, you get something out of him. And if not, Richarlison will be back before the end of the season. And then at that point, you just have like another month before the loan deal is over anyway. So from that standpoint, I can't see a scenario where Randall Colomwani goes anywhere. But that being said, I would probably say that Dominic Solanke is our straight up, unless there's an injury, he's going to be starting at that position game in and game out.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably take an astronomical fee for us to cancel the loan. However, if there's anything
Correct.
that Mawani wants to kind of be involved in, because obviously he could potentially turn around and say, "Listen, I'm not playing enough." The rumor was that he wasn't happy with starting games. I feel like that was probably misplaced. I think it meant more starting in his favoured position, which is obviously
Right,
more
and that's a problem with another problem with Thomas Frank is that because Richarlison got hot at a moment there a couple months back where he had that run of form, Randall Colomwani was playing off the left, and that's like the absolute moon to a guy like that who's used to being an out and out striker. And so when you're dealing with a guy who wasn't in form to begin with, anyways, now you're putting him in a different position. What were you expecting? What was going to happen? There's a reason why Matisse Tell started getting time there. So.
Yeah. As I say, I feel like there's loads of players where you could say we don't know where their best position currently is, and part of that you could say is down to the player themselves. You could say it's the system. You could say it's the managers. You could say that it's the club because we've gone from one extreme to another in the most attacking sort of system you could get to a defensive one. So I feel like there's a blame to be apportioned out in quite a lot of spaces. But Nigel, are you a fan of Solanke? There are a lot of people that there's it's weird, like in the fan base you've got some that think he's nowhere near good enough, you've got some that think he's very, very good, you've got others that are kind of like I'm not really sure. So where do you sit on the whole Solanke piece?
Well, when I first started my YouTube channel at the start of last season, one of my first hot takes was that Solanke would score 20 Premier League goals for Spurs. Let me down.
I know, mate. You come on my channel and told me that.
Yeah, you let me down big time now. I think if we are relying on Solanke to get us out of trouble, I think we're in bigger trouble than we think. I read a stat, I think it was today, that Tell, Odegaard, Xavi Simons and Mawani have played something like 95, 96 games for Spurs in the league between them, and we've got like 5 goals. So we really are relying on Solanke to come in, hopefully get fit, because let's be honest, he's been out all season.
Yeah.
And we need him to be fit now, and we need him to be scoring goals. And I just think that's a lot of pressure. We need to go out and buy somebody, mate. This week, we need to go out and buy somebody, because I just think there's a lot of pressure to put on Solanke. And I don't see Mawani scoring the goals. Definitely don't see Tell or Odegaard scoring the goals. And listen, Dane Scarlett is Dane Scarlett. He's a youngster. I don't think he's the answer, sadly.
Yeah, big up Rain. And you're right, Frank did mention him about being, and Spurs are always saying this, versatile, because if we sign players that are versatile, we don't need to sign 2 or 3 players. We could just sign one that can play in all different positions. So I definitely feel like that was, but it looks like a man who had rejected us on, I think it's 3 occasions. Mawani looks like a player that's rejected Spurs on 3 occasions, didn't want to come, and eventually had no sort of choice. And now he's here. He looks like he can't really be bothered. So unless we can get a different attitude from him, then I just don't see a way in which he's impacting games for us, which is obviously problematic, being that we've got so many injuries. We'll come over to you, Alan. Solanke, do you think that he's going to be the difference between a team that we're currently 14th? Is he going to be the difference between us pushing up the league, or do you think that, as I believe Nigel's correct, it proves we just absolutely need to get more attackers in this football club, and we need to do it in the next week or so?
We definitely need more. I don't think Solanke is bad. I don't think he's a bad striker. He needs better players with him for sure. I don't rate Mwani whatsoever, not as a footballer, but as his attitude. Like, he reminds me of Ndombele, exactly the same as him, just strolling about, doing what he wants, doesn't want to be here. Because we're on a bad run of form, I think he just wants to be out. I think he wants to be gone. He's not up for the fight. He doesn't want to play for the shirt. He doesn't see himself as a Tottenham player. He wants to be back where at PSG probably. But with regards to Solanke, I think Solanke is a good player. Like I said, he's a good player for everyone else. Remember, like Emil Heskey years ago, if you played with a Heskey, everyone else used to seem to play better. I think Solanke brings that. I think he brings the best out of Odegaard at the moment. I think you're seeing a lot better from Odegaard because of Solanke. But he's not that goal scorer that you need. He's not that goal scorer that can get you 20, 25 goals per season. So we definitely need more. We need goal scoring wingers. We need to replace Sonny and Johnson. They were goal scorers. We've sold them both and not replaced them. So 100% we need more. It depends on who we can attract, because as we've been established right now, we're dropping towards a relegation battle. What good strikers out there is going to want to come into that at the moment? So it's hard to probably attract the best, but there are decent players out there that could improve us. 100%, there must be. Just get better scouts and we'll be all right.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you can't improve this team, then you are really struggling. You don't deserve the job
You need
title.
to be
To be honest with you,
Yeah.
this could be improved. This squad can be improved in so many avenues. And this was one of the things I've been saying. There were a lot of fans, saying about like players like Walton and things like that, and going and dropping 100 million. And I was like, we could be spending 30 million on this squad and improving it. We don't, like, the 100 million players are the players you take that are going to take you to the very, very top. We need players that are going to take us to decent, let alone to the very, very top. So it is quite funny to see how many players we've been linked with and the huge price tags, and yet none of them are actually coming through the door at this moment in time. So it's just an absolutely crazy situation. We'll just have a quick one. Just we have kind of spoken about it a little bit, but I just want to be specific on what's everyone's ideas and feelings around Tell's treatment. For me, I have a bias in this situation, because I think Tell will become a very, very good player, whether it's Spurs or not. I'm not here to say that, but I feel like he's got the makings to become a good player. I think mentality wise, he's absolutely on point. Frank's already actually spoken about that in praise, about the way that he responded to being dropped out of the Champions League squad. So I think he will become a good player. Maybe, as I said, not at Spurs, but I do think the treatment of him has been pretty poor recently. Chris, obviously there were rumours that Tell wanted to leave. I think because of the amount of injuries we've got and all of the issues, it looks like he's probably not going to go anywhere. But what do you think on Tell? Do you think he should be one that we loan out? Should we keep? Should we be selling him? What are your thoughts on Matisse Tell and his treatment over the last few months?
Yeah, I think going back to when we actually signed him on a permanent, everyone was sort of, myself as well, I was like, why have we just spent 40 million pounds on this kid? Like, we had him on loan and he didn't seem to be any good. Why are we going to then pay the money to get him? And I think there was sort of an agreement in place, a gentleman's handshake, that was like, let's just get him. You have to basically pay the money for him. For me, if we was going to loan him out, it would be because we're going to use players. Me personally, I would rather have kept Mikey Moore at the club. I know he's on loan at Rangers. He's doing really well.
I do too.
I would have rather have kept Mikey Moore and sent Tell out on loan if that was going to be the backup option to whoever was going to replace Son. I just feel like Mikey Moore. I don't rate Tell at the minute. I think he does so much, but there's no final product. He tries to beat a man, doesn't always beat the man. The last few games, when he gets his chance, you can tell that he's actually fighting. He's trying to prove, which I respect. But quality wise, I don't rate him. I just don't see it. And as you say, he's probably going to be good in the next 3-4 years, but we can't wait 3 or 4 years. And we need players now. So he was always coming in as a second string. It is poor that if we are in a injury crisis again and we've got no players, I've always said I do like Spence, but playing on the left side, he does restrict us because he has to cut in. He can hardly use his left foot. If you've got someone like Tell who's going to take on their man and give us something different on the left side, then I would definitely use him in a time where he's not in the Champions League squad either. So in the Premier League, when you've got the Champions League games in between, he should be starting. He should be getting 70, 80 minutes, if not playing the full game, because he's not going to be playing. I mean, we had Tuesday, I think, that Frankfurt's on Wednesday. Why would you not start him in the Premier League games? So, yeah, hopefully he will become good. But I just think we are going to be waiting for him to come good in 3 or 4 years, when we should be having an out-and-out left midfielder now who can play, who is going to start, who's going to be our number one with Tell behind him, because otherwise we've sent Mikey Moore out on loan, who had to play last season for us and looked very good last season as well. I just don't see the point in spending £40 million on someone who, again, you've got someone sitting there who's, I think Mikey Moore say, is he just turned 18?
18, 19, I think, yeah.
I think he just turned 18, because I think there was an international clearance he had to go through, but it went through the day after he signed. We accepted a loan because of his age. I would have just kept Mikey Moore, because I think you're going to have the same. We're going to get the same output out of what we had with Tell. We've just spent £40 million for it.
Yeah, I think obviously that left wing position, I think all of these young players that we're talking about, they need to have an experienced pro that they're learning from. And ironically, I'm going to go back on it and say what we were saying earlier. I was one that said if Son goes out, it's not the end of the world. I do think that we could sell Son, we could bring someone else in, and they'll be able to bring some fresh impetus, some goals, and because Son's legs looked like they were going. But I always caveat that and expect someone else to come through the door. And if someone would have going to get rid of Son but bring no one in, then you're sitting there going, well, hang on a minute. I've done the same thing with Højbjerg. I thought, well, if Højbjerg goes and we bring someone in, then absolutely I'm on board with that. But we don't seem to do this, and this is something I've kept saying to Spurs fans. So many of them are saying, I would sell him, I would get rid of him, and I'm like, and bring in who? Brennan Johnson is the prime example. Whether you rated him or you didn't, okay, we're going to get rid of him. Okay, someone will come through the door. No, was it 20 days later? Still nobody. Absolutely still nobody come through the door. So I think that's one of the big problems. I agree. I think we should be going better than Tell, but right at this moment in time, what do we have? Steve, what are your thoughts on Tell? Do you think he's been treated poorly, and should he be starting games? And then there's another question: should we be buying a player better than Tell regardless? And I think the answer to that is definitely yes.
Yeah, I think it's yes across the board. I'm actually one of the in the minority that absolutely love Matisse Tell as somebody that kind of keeps an eye on youth prospects. He was actually one of my favorite strikers coming out, and I will say that from the fact that we're also talking about a kid who's only 20 years old. Last year when he came to the Premier League, he was 19 years old, coming from Bayern Munich, being in a position where he's playing behind Harry Kane. And quite frankly, you're going from the Bundesliga to the Premier League in an untenable situation where you're actually facing a relegation scrap, and all of a sudden you're not just in the first team, you're put into the starting 11, and you're like, all right, kid, go score 3 goals, and it's like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. And unfortunately, it is what it is. But one of the things that I will say is, again, he's 20 years old, he's not 25. Ceiling is still high, and he's got all the immeasurables to actually turn out to be a very good football player. He's already got the positioning, and he's already got the pace. And once he grows into his body and actually puts a little physicality on his body, and he's actually ready to actually play to the wear and tear of the Premier League, he's probably going to come good. I would probably assume that the things that he needs to do right now is work on bulking up his body a little bit and working on his finish. And he's got, and then in 2-3 years time, he's probably going to come good by the time he hits his prime. But what I will say is the treatment, I guess you can say, yeah, the treatment sucks. But that being said, you're also dealing with an out and out striker playing a position that's not his natural position. And so there's going to be growing pains trying to shoehorn a peg into a round hole. So from that standpoint, I actually agree with Chris here, where if you're not going to have him on the Champions League roster, regardless of who we're playing in the Premier League, he has to be playing. He has to be playing. And if that means I actually thought that this would be an opportunity to again run at striker, because Dominic Solanke is not 100% fit, ready to go. And so a team like Burnley would have been a perfect opportunity to get him in the starting 11, and he's got 70 minutes, and then maybe Poulamwani comes in after that, or whatever the case may be. Especially if they're playing a 3-4-2-1. It almost seemed like it would have been like a natural a natural pick. But that being said, it is what it is. And me personally, I was actually kind of let down because, again, I thought this would be a perfect opportunity, even if you're playing a back four with four attackers. At least he would be on the left hand side.
Yeah, I completely agree. As I say, I think that Tell is definitely one that can develop into a very good striker. I don't think he's a Premier League striker for sure. Almost like that second striker, but I feel like he's got some very good technical abilities. And again, I think it's about finding the right structure in the team for him, which I think is something we've struggled for. Not just for him. There's so many players that you can turn around and say that about. So a bit of a strange one, but this is where we're at. Nige, are you a fan of Tell, or are you been in Tell off?
He's slowly but surely growing on me. This season I've been quite impressed, because under Frank, we all know that football has not been the best on the eye, and there's a lot of sideways, backwards passing. The one thing I like about Tell, and listen, for me, he's not the answer, but he always looks to try and make something happen. Doesn't always work. A lot of the time he gives the ball away, or his shot will go high, wide and handsome, but he's always looking to go forward. He's very direct. And, we've been crying out for our wingers to take men on. I remember Johnson he doesn't take his fullback on. He's rubbish. We've got a winger now in Tell. He may not be a winger, but at least he tries to take his fullback on. Mm-hmm. And I think there's something deeper there. I really do. Like you said earlier, Luke, he can't play in the Champions League. So surely he would have started Saturday. I think there's something deeper. I think there probably has been some sort of falling out there with him and Frank. I can't imagine being dropped from the Champions League side twice would go down well with anybody. So yeah, but I like Tell, but is he the answer? No, he's not.
Yeah, I completely agree. And as I say, I'm a big fan of Tell, but I'm certainly not saying Tell should be a starting left winger at Tottenham Hotspur, or should he be the striker at this moment in time. He should be developed in the background with first team, senior, experienced pros as the ones that take the mantle for most of the game, and then Tell comes on to make an impact. And I just think it's a really, really strange situation to be in when you've got such a small squad, players only available for certain games, and then they don't get selected for those games. It very, very strange. I completely agree with what Rain said here. It just makes no sense for Tell not to have played, except if he wants to keep the same side, but he couldn't keep the same side because Gallagher and Biss came in anyway. So there's literally no excuse in my eyes why he doesn't play. Solanke, he'd already kind of mentioned and kind of hinted towards the fact Solanke wasn't ready to play 90 minutes. So you've got every reason for Solanke not to play, not to start. You've got every reason for Spence not to start or find another way of getting Tell in the team. And he's gone against all of them. And I think you're right, Alan. I think you mentioned it earlier. If there's an injury to one of those players that would start regularly on Wednesday, or what most fans would say will start on Wednesday, it becomes a massive, massive problem. Thankfully, it doesn't look like that is the case. But Spurs and injuries, kind of a match made in heaven there. Do you think that Tell has been treated unfairly? Should he have been playing more games in your eyes, or starting more games?
Should we put a conspiracy into this? Frank needs players, yeah? Is he afraid that if he plays Tell, he bangs in some goals, he ain't going to sign anybody? They're going to say, you've got Tell now, you don't need anyone. That's my conspiracy.
I think they'll say that anyway, mate. I think they'll say that anyway.
Yeah,
they'll turn around and say, you fielded 11 players this week. What's the problem? I don't know what you're talking about. It doesn't really make a difference.
Exactly. You only need 11 players, mate. It's fine. Now, but on a serious note, it's a case of squad planning again, isn't it? That we shouldn't be relying on Odegaard and Tell. There's too much pressure on them two. All the focus is on them two. If we had, like, for example, the Sonnies and Johnsons or whatever, but whoever replaces them, more experience, gets the goals, and they can learn off them, like we all said earlier in the video. Like we should have, like, we're putting so much emphasis on Tell, how good he is and how good Odegaard is. We wouldn't even be mentioning them that much if we had other players in that position. I know Kudos is supposed to be there, but he's injured as well. But we've got nobody on that left-hand side, and Tell's getting all the brunt from it because he's the only person really that can play out there. now. And like we've got like Mawani, he can't be bothered at the moment. But I think Tell will be a very, very good player. I do. When you've got a player that's got a mentality like his, when you've got I'm going to try 100%. I don't care how much stick I get. Like he doesn't care if he takes on his man 12 times and the man tackles him 12 times, he'll try a 13th time. Nothing stops him from trying again. And I think with that mentality, I don't think you can fail, because he won't let himself fail. So I do believe in the next 2 or 3 years, he's going to be very, very good. But unfortunately for Tottenham, we need him to be good now. And that's why he's getting a lot of stick. I don't think he's been unfairly treated. I just think he should have been playing against Burnley or the league games if he can't play in the Champions League. I agree with Steve. Exactly. He should be playing the league games if he can't play Champions League. Especially, like I said, if a player gets injured because they've overplayed, the fan base is going to have a meltdown about that.
Yep, and rightly so in my eyes. For anyone that hasn't seen it, and I think we've kind of touched on it a little bit already on the show, but it looks like the Andy Robertson deal is now dead in the water. That looks like it's not going through. David Ornstein has tweeted and said Andy Robertson to Tottenham was agreed in principle, was set to be completed after this week's UCL fixtures, but it is not proceeding because Roma have been unable to find a replacement for Tsimikas, who would be recalled by Liverpool. So essentially, it looks like Roma have not been able to replace Tsimikas, who would have been replacing Robertson. So therefore, Spurs don't get their man. It just feels like, why does this happen to Spurs so often, where it gets a deal looks relatively close or looks sort of close, and then something just comes out of the blue? You can even go and do the whole Valise situation where we've agreed a deal to sell Valise, didn't realise we didn't have a recall clause. Now that deal's not looking like it's going to be completed. Like Morgan Gibbs White, Eze, I can go on and on and on. Maybe I'm wrong. We're not
Bruno Fernandes. It goes on forever.
Maybe I'm wrong. We're not the only club that goes through this, but why with Spurs does it feel like every single transfer there has to be some sort of weird and wonderful thing that kind of takes place? Even players like Leandro Damião, who we're linked with for 15 years and never get over the line. Chris, what do you make of the whole signing Robertson, not signing Robertson? Is he good enough? Should he be starting? Fan meltdown that we're signing him. Probably fan meltdown now because we're not signing him. What are your thoughts on the whole Robertson debacle that Spurs have delivered up this time?
I wouldn't have minded him, to be fair. I think he brings a certain... He's obviously played in a winning team. He's won things. He's Scotland captain. He has a lot of... He has an old head on his shoulders as such, where he's got the knowledge, he's got the experiences, he's got the mentality, he's a winner. So for me, I don't know why he would come to Spurs. For me, it's sort of, why would you want to come to us? Because Udogie seems to be the number one. So why would you come knowing that you've got to prove yourself to be the number one, even though we know what he can do? I think I read that he was talking, that there's been talks about him coming in the summer anyway when his contract finishes, but because of the injury crisis, we was going to just bring him in earlier and pay a fee for him. So I'd like to see him in. I think it's a positive signing, not just for bringing someone in who's Premier League quality, but it's someone who, again, being around the youngsters, having that mentality, having that experiences that he's had in football. I think it's a positive signing to bring in. And I think he's 31, maybe 32 soon. So
yeah,
the theory of us only ever signing young players as well, I mean, that goes out the window because we're signing basically a near 32-year-old. He's only got 2 or 3 more left, if that, and that would be his career near enough done. So I think it proves that they're trying to change their mentality in the squad, and having winners around them would be good. But as I say, I don't get why he would want to come to Spurs knowing that he's not going to be the number one. He ain't going to be the number one left back.
Yeah, I mean, Dave, big up Dave, has just put in the chat there. It was nothing to do with Roma. Liverpool had a release clause for Tsimikas. I'm just saying what David Ornstein has said. And it looks like, going back to what Chris just said, it looks like Robertson was very, very happy to come. It looks like he was absolutely happy to come. And this is, again, we've got ourselves in another situation where we're going for a player that's really absolutely happy to come, but yet we still can't get it over the line for whatever reason. Steve, do you think Robertson would have been a decent signing, and do you think that actually this will go through? It's just a bit of a hiccup, or do you think that is absolutely dead?
I mean, if the reports are true, then that thing is dead in the water. But what I will say is that on the one hand, yeah, I like the idea because the dude's won every single major trophy there is to win in Europe, right? And I think that is worth its weight in gold, especially when you're dealing with a team that is breaking in young players, somebody that they can actually point to from a leadership standpoint. And I actually think it's him and Conor Gallagher would probably be better leadership than what we're getting currently right now. And I think that would probably have been worth its weight in gold, knowing that he's potentially going to be a backup to a guy like Destiny Udogie. My only concern is the fact that he's 31 years old and the fact that he was playing in a Jurgen Klopp system where it requires such a phenomenal work rate, match in, match out. And he did it for so long to the point where I was kind of curious to know whether he had anything left in the tank, how much tread is left on that tire. Because, I mean, theoretically speaking, the way I looked at it was that you're going to share time with Destiny Udogie, and knowing that Destiny Udogie is also a walking injury, there's a good chance that he's actually going to play some significant minutes. So from my standpoint, I'm like, okay, yeah, I kind of like the leadership, but that being said, it's like what if he's a shot fighter at this stage and he's just like, this is just his last go round in the Premier League while he still has a little bit juice left to squeeze. And how much is that going to be worth for Spurs, and how much you're going to get? You're going to get 6 months? Are you going to get a year and a half before it finally goes? Like, is this valuable to you right now, understanding that it's only going to be for a finite amount of time? Like, why didn't they just go to Fulham and pay the 35 for Anthony Robinson? You know what I mean? You're going to get 4 years. You're going to get at least 5 years on that. And by the way, he actually checks all the boxes for a left back that you're actually looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, it is strange, definitely. Adam, super sticker, my man. Massive thank you for that. Much appreciated. And harmless potato, I don't think Steve was saying that we play like Klopp's Liverpool. I think he was saying that the amount of running power that's required over a period of time, it takes a lot out of the body. So people always go about age and everything else. Robertson's going to be 32 in the summer, but he's chalked up a lot of miles, a hell of a lot of miles on them legs because of the amount of pressing. And very similar to what people talk about Pochettino as and things like that.
Right. And how many of former Liverpool players that left Klopp's Liverpool and went on to continue to have success for a long period of time? Not that many.
Robertson heard that we had 4 players. Is it not more than that? Spence. Who else have we got? We've got Spence, Udogie. You got the new guy, Sousa. Van der Ven as well, and Robertson and
Ben Davis.
Ben Davis. So we came into the window, and this is what I said was kind of ironic. We came into the window knowing that we was really short of fullbacks, and if we'd got Robinson over the line, we'd have had 5 players that could play in that position. Like, it just goes to recruitment all of the time. It's just absolutely, it's just really strange. Nige, what were your thoughts on Robertson? Do you think that this is, as I say, from the reports, it looks like Roma haven't been able to get a replacement in. Now there is a week or so, so in theory, if that's the only stumbling block, this deal doesn't need to really be dead. It could be revived. Would you be happy with Robertson, or do you think that it's absolutely completely dead and done now?
I'd be really happy with Robertson. I think he's a top defender still. I think it does get done. I think it will be one that gets done right at the end. I've got a sneaky suspicion that Liverpool may be after Robinson, and they may be saying, let's get him through the door first, and then you can have Robertson. But we will see. It wasn't going to be until after the Champions League anyway. So for me, I still think it gets done. I think he offers us everything we need, that experience, that leadership. He's a bit of an ass as well, isn't he?
Yes.
On the pitch, kind of player you hate to play against, but you love in your team. So I think he'd be a great signing for Spurs, even if for a couple of years. We look at Ben Davis, and let's face it, he is the player he's replacing, which is a little bit reactive from Tottenham. But Ben Davis always gave you a solid 6 out of 10. I think Robertson always gives you a solid 7 out of 10. So I think we'd be slightly upgraded. Like I say, even if it is for a couple of years, I'd absolutely take him.
Completely agree. Kipper, big up my man. I heard Gomez got injured. It wasn't just Gomez. I think Kirk has also picked up an injury as well. So that kind of put the buffers on it a little bit. But then again, Tsimikas is supposed to be coming in as the kind of play backup for Robertson. So hey, let's see what happens. As I say, I'm confident that there's a potential this deal is not completely dead.
Wasn't Kirkus just in the red zone? And that's why, a bit like Porro, why he come off.
Yeah, I think there's been some people have been saying it's the red zone. Some have been saying it looked like it was a slight injury. I mean, it could be like with the Spurs medical team where they say it's just a knock, and then 16 months later they're still injured. So let's see how things go. But as I say, even if it was an injury, Tsimikas is the backup that they would want to bring in anyway. So it could end up being a case of this deal getting done eventually, or as you said, Nigel, it might be that they're after somebody else and obviously could go after them. You don't really like to sprinkle out that you've got some money to spend or you've got a player you want to bring in or whatever. So hey, maybe that's the case. Alan, what would your thoughts be on if we was to get Robertson over the line? Do you think that the fans would be happy with that? Would you be happy with that? What are your thoughts?
The curse is real, mate. They're only talking to us and the players are dropping like flies already. Welcome to Spurs, your players will get injured. I think it was a strange. I think if we already bought a couple of forward players and then we was going for the Robertson, it'd make more sense. But because we just signed a left back, a 19-year-old again, which frustrated people anyway, and then you're going for a Robertson after, so 2 left backs now when we need forward players, I think that just didn't make sense, and I think they did it backwards. I think if they went for the forward players first, then got a Robertson in, I think that would be okay. But yeah, he brings experience. Yeah, he brings winning mentality. Yeah, he'll kick a few players up the arse. I know that for a fact. He's still got a fucking decent cross on him. He's good from set pieces, things like that. So he'll bring something to Spurs. It just didn't make sense at the time. That's all it was for me. Like I tried to explain on my videos that I don't mind him. It's just we've got your doggy and Spence, who in my opinion are both better at left back than him now. He was obviously one of the best left backs in Europe in his prime, but at this current day, your doggy and Spence would be ahead of him. So it didn't make sense. And then signing Souza or Souza, however you pronounce it, that didn't make sense either. All of a sudden, because now I'm like, now they're talking about putting him out on loan. Are they still going to put him out on loan now that Robertson's not coming? So I don't even know what's happening there. So yeah, he brings a lot. If he came, I wouldn't complain, but it just doesn't make sense. That's all it is for me.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's just, again, I'll come back to it, optics, right? It's just the optics. If we'd have gone and got a winger or gone and got a forward player and then we would have gone to get the left back, I don't think many people complain. It's just the fact that we bought a left back, we're then signing another left back, we've signed a midfielder that's, again, similar sort of profile, better than what we had, but similar profile, and it's not fixing the holes that we quite clearly have in this squad. Guys, I've just chucked everybody's links in the chat. You've got Chris over on X, you've got Nigel over on YouTube, Alan over on YouTube, and also Steve over on YouTube. Please go over and share, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. You all know what it's like being Spurs fans. We need to stick together on this because times are hard, and these guys go out every single week and talk about it and put our face on YouTube and make ourselves look silly on occasions. Basuma, prime example. There we go. Guys, we will be wrapping up in a few minutes or so. We're just going to kind of cover the next 5 games that we've got. Just very, very quick. We'll go around the table in terms of the 5 upcoming fixtures, and then we'll also do Frankfurt predictions and score predictions there, and obviously what we're expecting in that Champions League. And we still haven't hit the target on likes, guys, so come on, we need 6 more likes for 50. So if 6 of you are in the chat and you haven't hit the like button, please do so. Guys, it's not going to get any easier. Alan touched on it earlier on, and basically we have 5 fixtures now: Frankfurt, City, United, Newcastle, Arsenal. Fixtures, I've always said in the Premier League, when you're on a bad run, every single game looks very, very difficult. Doesn't matter if you was on a brilliant run, these games still look particularly difficult. Chris, Frankfurt are really struggling. in the Champions League. They cannot qualify. They've got a massive game at midweek. So that game you could give a decent argument to say we should go there and hopefully put on a performance. But the 4th leading that are going to be very, very difficult, right? What are your thoughts on these next 5 games, and what do you expect Spurs to be able to do in those 5 games?
I'm going to be short and sweet. We're going to beat Frankfurt and then lose the 4 Premier League games. I can't see anything else happening.
Even though Frank's tactics are very much they're very much being a team that you expect to be dominated, counter-attacking. So we will definitely not be the dominant side. You don't think that Frank's going to be able to adopt the tactics almost like he did at Brentford, where you look like you're not accepting it at all. Okay, good.
I think City will turn up against us and they'll just pick us apart. I think the way United are playing as well, Carrick's got them working wonders. They look good tonight as well from what I see. So I don't think we do anything Man United. Newcastle, again, I think they're just today. I watched the game today, Newcastle Villa, and they didn't look horrendous, but I think Villa just was up for it. They just took the game to them. I just can't see it. I just don't see, if we can't beat the West Ham, Burnleys, and them sort of teams, I just can't see how we're going to turn up against, especially when City are still fighting. They're still up there in a title race. United are going to want to start kicking on as well. I just can't see it, mate. I just think we're going to go to Frankfurt and do our usual European fight, and we'll play amazing in the first half, and then we'll end up getting a win or a draw there, and then we'll just get turned over in the league, unfortunately.
Good. See, positive energy there. I love to hear it from Chris. Good positive vibes. Steve, are you in agreement? Do you think that we're going to beat Frankfurt and then lose 4 on a trot?
I do, because I don't think there's any correlation between our form in the Champions League and our form in the Premier League. It almost feels a little bit like last year, where the players understand that there's nothing to play for in the Premier League, but they still have a trophy out there that's worth fighting for. And so for that, for whatever reason, they show up and they turn up in the Champions League, and they're able to roll over a team like Borussia Dortmund. And by the way, that's a very good Borussia Dortmund team. And they were able to get that team out of rhythm. And we're able to get a result. So from that standpoint, I have no doubt that we'll go to Frankfurt and come away with 3 points and put ourselves into the knockout rounds. That being said, for whatever reason, they're going to turn around and absolutely get battered against Man City. And I would what's interesting is if Ruben Amorim were still at United, I would probably say there's an opportunity for us to kind of go, kind of be in that position to go up there and take some points away from them, whether that's a draw or whether that's a win. But that being said, Michael Carrick has literally turned that entire club around in a matter of a week. And all of a sudden they're playing United football again. And so from that standpoint, we saw what they did today against Arsenal, and it's there you go. And then of course, Newcastle, it just depends on Newcastle's kind of a funny team. Newcastle, I want to like Newcastle, but yet they always seem to let me down in some of the bigger moments. No doubt that they're a talented team, and it just depends on which team shows up that day. I still think Newcastle gets us. And here's the kicker: I will be in London for my first ever North London derby at the stadium against Arsenal, and we are going to get absolutely battered in that match, much in the same way that we got battered in the Emirates. And I hate to say it too, because I absolutely cannot stand Arsenal at all. But that being said, it's I look at these next 4, and I put it into context that I would probably think that Frank will be here until the end of the window, and I probably would assume he'll be here through the end of February before ultimately he gets the sack. I just look at this as probably he'll be around for these next 5 fixtures, and that's probably going to be it. But that being said, it's again, there's no correlation between our form in the Champions League and the Premier League. We'll get that win in Frankfurt, and then unfortunately drop all 12 points in those 4 fixtures.
Just to let you know, if you do come over and we do lose, then you can go and blame Robbie, because Robbie's guaranteed us. I can see it he hasn't written it here, but he said he guarantees us we're going to beat the Gooners 1-0. So there we
By
go.
the way,
Guarantee.
I hope that happens. I really hope that happens. Trust me when I tell you that.
Yeah, no, we absolutely all do, and I'm glad you mentioned Carrick, because I think Carrick is the prime example. And I'm not saying that Frank is this or he's not this, because there's arguments for both sides. Arteta obviously being one you give patience to, and maybe they build, but I think Spurs could also potentially look at Man United and say they kept insisting that Amorim was the man to lead the rebuild. And for me, every time I watched them, they was never any good. And then in 2 games, I've looked at them and gone, they look like a proper team. They've got Bruno Fernandes playing in his best position. They've got Mainu, who has barely featured, playing as one of their best midfielders. They're putting players in the positions that they should be playing in, and they're looking like a good team. So maybe that's something that Spurs need to actually look at. Nige, there's been a whole load of positivity across the top here, because they are all confident that we're going to get absolutely walloped in the 4 Premier League games. But they have said that we're going to beat Frankfurt. Do you agree?
I'm going to go slightly opposite. I think we're actually going to lose to Frankfurt, and because we've done so well in the Champions League and we've come so far, and we are literally 90 minutes away and 1 win from qualifying. Spurs are balls it up. What we do. And let's be honest, we were rubbish away at Monaco, outclassed. We were rubbish away at Bodo, got a point. I just don't like us away from home in the Champions League. I don't think we're great. And it's going to probably be a stink fest. I think we might lose by the odd goal. Saying that, I think there's 4 Premier League games. I think we get a point against City. I think we'll lose to United. I agree. I think United are starting to fly. But I think we beat Newcastle, and this is where I might be going a bit deluded. I think we're going to do Arsenal, because they are bottling it.
I love this.
I hope you're right. I hope you've just proved us on the top row completely wrong, because that would be a good February.
If we're able to go full West Ham versus us versus Arsenal, that would be that would actually make my season better. That would be
I will say, I think Adrian's mentioned this from Spurs Die Eyes. Big shout out to them. I think that if we don't qualify in the top 8, the qualifying games for the Champions League actually fall either side of the Arsenal game. So that could be very, very difficult if we don't win against. So, Nigel, I hope you're right to some degree, but I also hope the guys above you are right as well. And we should just win them all. That would be absolutely perfect. Alan, what are your thoughts on the next 5? For anyone that's just tuned in, Frankfurt, City, United, Newcastle, Arsenal are the next 5.
Okay, I'll give you a stat first. I saw this earlier on Twitter. Frankfurt in the last 5 matches have conceded 3 goals in each of those 5 matches. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. That could be a Dr. Tottenham turn up and then they won't score. They won't concede at all. So, yeah. So we should be able to score against Frankfurt, because every bloody else does. So we'll see. But I think we'll beat Frankfurt. It won't be easy, but I think we'll beat them. Manchester City, no matter how bad we are, no matter how good they are, we always seem to beat them. I remember last year, what was it, early on in the season, everyone said Man City were going to batter us, and we beat them 4-0. Do you remember? And they said, oh, Man City will expose our high line. It's going to be easy for them. Everybody said it. And then we beat them 4-0 somehow. So I just think with such a bogey side for them, we probably will end up winning that game. We probably will. It's just Spurs. That's what we do when it comes to Manchester City. Dortmund are like a German Man City, aren't they? We all seem to beat them as well. So we've got Newcastle next. Newcastle not that good this year for some reason. So we could get a point. We could win. We could easily lose as well. But I'm going to go for a draw against Newcastle. Man United, I missed them out, didn't I, on purpose, because we're probably going to lose that game. I watched them today, and they were brilliant. I watched them against Man City as well, and they were brilliant. If they play like that against us, they'll rip us apart. Honestly, they will. They do leave gaps, though. Man United do leave gaps in defence a lot when they're going gun-ho. When they do their counter-attacking, they leave massive holes. So if you can win the ball back off them and do a counter-attack, you can beat them. But there's a lot to ask from this tight team at the minute. This is all predictions with Frank in charge, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, I think Arsenal will beat us. Arsenal beat us most definitely. So yeah, we'll probably get about 4 points from the next few games if we're lucky. But I agree more with the top row. We're most likely going to lose them all. There's more chance of that.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised there's not more people that believe Nige, because Nige started with, "This is maybe me being deluded." So I don't quite understand why people don't believe him.
Man, I would love nothing to be just a straight up happy clapper for this club. You know what I mean? And just be completely enthusiastic. But that being said, I can't help but just be a curmudgeon about it. You know what I mean? Like even when we win, I still find ways to be upset about it.
Yeah, that's what's. But knowing Spurs, there's probably a reason for that, right? It's not. Spurs always got to deliver up something. It's never straightforward. Guys, we are going to wrap up shortly. As I said, everyone's links are in the description. They're also in the chat. Please make sure you're over there and you're liking and subscribing to all of the guys' content. Some brilliant content creators here, watching them very regularly. You see me on Alan's channel quite a lot, giving my opinions on how Spurs have lost. I mean, how Spurs have played after virtually every game, which is very, very depressing. Very depressing. So thank you for that, Alan. It's much appreciated that you asked me to come on and do that. But guys, as I say, please go over and subscribe to everyone. We're going to do a quick one round the table. Frankfurt result. We're going to have the result. Predictions and also a goal scorer if you think we're going to score. Pop it in the chat as well, please. Chris, you don't back us. You back us against Frankfurt. That's the only game we're going to win. So please say this is a good one. Over to you. Scores and scorer, please.
2-1 Tottenham.
Solanke. It's got to be Romero or Van der Ven, right? They're the only ones that score.
Van der Ven, Solanke and a Romero goal.
Right. Okay. Well, there's a victory, which is good. Steve, what is your score and scorer, please?
3-1 Spurs, and we will get set piece goals from Christian Romero, Mickey Van de Ven, and we will get a weird looking second half goal from Dominic Solanke.
I'm taking that. If just to be clear, if anyone's not seen it, at the moment, Romero and Van de Ven have 19 goals or assists between them this year. That is
right. They're doing better than some strikers, you know.
Like, that is ridiculous. Nige, how much are Spurs going to lose by against Frankfurt?
Seeing I said we're going to lose, I better stick with it. I think it's going to be 2-1. 2-1 Frankfurt, I think. Yeah. But I'm going with the other guys. I think Solanke penalty, just like the other year.
Solanke penalty. Most probably he will be the penalty taker from now on, I guess. Alan, come on, let's finish it off with a nice positive.
Frankfurt have got nothing to play for. They've got nothing to play for. They concede goals for fun. Spurs need to win this game. We play well in Europe. I'm going to go for 4-0 Spurs.
2-0 Frankfurt.
4-0 Frankfurt. Yeah.
What did you say? Sorry, what was your score?
I forgot. No, 4-0 Spurs. I knew you said 4-0 Frankfurt then. Yeah, 4-0 Spurs.
4-0 Spurs. God, Alan, I hope you're right.
It's going to be a Van der Ven hat-trick and a Romero header from a corner.
Van der Ven hat-trick. Yes.
Yes. That we all think is going to be.
Come on, Van der Ven.
To score all the goals. It's just absolutely
Put
crazy.
his price tag up 20 more million.
Big up, Robbie. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. We are going to redirect you straight over to the Hotspur Hood, who has got box office. He's got Danny K. He's got Stell, Michael, and himself all on there. So that will be a great show over there. Please go over, do Spotlight on Spurs raid, and we will see you again on Thursday. And it will be ever so close to that end of transfer window, deadline day, heebie-jeebies about who Spurs don't sign. Last thing, as always, from all of us guys, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.